All right, so nutrition, the fundamentals, let's get started. So me and Maya are from health promotion at PSP. So that's with the CFSGOG. And just a few notes before we get started. So the presentation you are about to view is the intellectual property of DND. Any reproduction or retransmission of the slides contained in this presentation is strictly forbidden. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing later on, so we'll make sure to send the link through to the organizers today. And though active participation is encouraged throughout the presentation, you can simply follow along without using the chat functions if you prefer. With that said, in order to make this a more interactive experience, I invite you to use the chat to enter your answers to questions that we're going to ask during the presentation. So please respect that the chat is reserved for this purpose only and not for any side conversations or material that could be distracting to others. And just a quick note that questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, so we'll have a few minutes just to go through any questions you may have and answer them the best we can. All right, so just a quick outline on today's presentation. So we're going to be first off looking at the impact of nutrition on our mental and physical health. So, ultimately looking at why healthy eating is important. Then we're going to kind of go into nutrients. So we talk a little bit, or I should say a lot about nutrients and their importance, as well as the CFG, so the Canadian Food Guide. We're also going to take a look at building a healthy plate. So Maya's going to take us through that, as well as healthy eating habits. And we're also going to touch upon stress and nutrition. All right, so let's jump right in. I'm going to ask you a question if you want to share your thoughts in the chat. Why is healthy eating important? And this is a really, really broad question, but go ahead and share your thoughts. All right, we have a first response here. Fuels the body and brain. Absolutely, excellent. Gives energy, yeah. Sustained energy, absolutely. Supports mental health. Energy, yeah. Definitely, that's a huge one, right? Without healthy eating, how can we go on with our days? So there's some specific reasons why healthy eating is important. And for sure, some of you've already mentioned some really, really great answers. So clear skin, yeah. So what you are, what you eat, yeah. Healthy eating equals more energy, certainly. So increased energy for activity is a huge one, right? But we have to keep in mind that calories alone isn't going to cut it, right? So you need all the pieces of the puzzle for energy reactions, muscle contractions, and firing off signals. So when it comes down to these nitty-gritty things, it's more than just the calories that we're ingesting. So although food has classically been perceived as a means to provide energy and building material to the body, right, its ability to prevent and protect against disease is starting to be more and more recognized. And this helps to prevent or reduce the risk of chronic disease like diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, as well as lowering the risk of depression and perhaps also reducing symptoms of depression. There's also the really, really important role that healthy eating can help reduce illness, as it helps to keep your immune system strong, which we all know is really, really important now as we continue to face the pandemic. And we also have, increasing the speed of recovery from injuries and illness by providing nutrients that our body needs to heal, right? It's sometimes inevitable. We're going to catch a cold or something, and sometimes, we do get hurt. So again, a really, really important piece of that puzzle. And many of you have mentioned this next one. Yes, brain fuel and mental well-being. So the brain depends on glucose as its main source of fuel. So the brain is one of the biggest users of glucose. And brain functions like thinking, memory, and learning are closely linked to the glucose levels and how efficiently the brain uses this fuel source. And the nutrients that you find in the food that you eat are also important for making neurotransmitters. And those are the things that transmit signals to your brain. So low levels of these nutrients in your body can affect the production of feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. So this can contribute to low energy, brain fog, and depressed mood. And these nutrients are also really important for what we call the healthy gut bacteria called the microbiome. So maybe you've heard of this before, maybe not, but we're just going to do a very, very general overview. We're not going to dive in too deep, but just to know that there is a connection that exists between what we're eating and how we're feeling. So this is called the gut-brain axis. Okay, so the gut-brain axis, so when we say gut, what we're referring to is that intestinal microbiome. So it's kind of like a jungle of billions of good bacteria that do so many amazing things, some of which are protecting the linings of your intestines. They can provide a strong barrier against toxins and bad bacteria. They also help limit inflammation, help improve how well you absorb nutrients from your food, right? If you're eating a whole bunch of great things, we want to make sure that you're able to absorb those things. And they also activate neural pathways that travel directly between the gut and the brain. So there is an anatomical, so a physical aspect.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I forgot to mention, could you leave your camera on? We have somebody who is hearing impaired, so they're going to read your lips. But they just need to see you in order to do that. For both the presenters, Tina and Maya. Sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning.
No worries. Just give me a moment. I'll just place my camera so it's well aligned here. Okay, okay? So you guys should all be able to see me at this point. All right. So I'll just kind of pick up where I think I left off. So there is actually an anatomical and a physiological two-way communication between the gut and the brain via a nerve called the vagus nerve. So yes, it's actually a physical connection. And you can think of the gut-brain axis the same way that the picture depicts it. It's kind of like a telephone line that they communicate with each other. And the gut-brain axis offers us a greater understanding of the connection between diet and disease, including depression and anxiety. In a healthy microbiome, the bacteria work together and they produce substances that are essential to the functioning of the brain, the immune, and the hormonal system. So, it's more than just the brain, it's many other systems as well. And a fun fact is that, as incredible as it sounds, your microbiome produces most of the brain's serotonin. And serotonin is that kind of happy mood regulator. So again, really important thing to have a happy, healthy gut microbiome. And the way to do this, well, it's modifiable by a diet that's actually rich in plants and fiber to increase that diversity of that microbiome. And that will help ultimately to maintain that protective functionality. So some really, really interesting stuff. There's some great books on this topic that if you want to do further reading, you can certainly do that. But all the more reason why we want to make sure that we're getting all the nutrients that we can get. So feeding your brain well ultimately will have you make sure you feed your body well as well. So the brain needs a lot of energy and nutrients from the food structure and function. And eating nutrient-dense food is a preventative action linked with fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety. So, oops, excuse me, let's go back. So the largest modifiable factor in helping preserve memory and decreasing the risk of dementia and depression is in fact our dietary patterns. So that's a really, really key point there. Also, healthy foods and regular exercise can reduce the symptoms of depression. And research shows that physically active people are more satisfied with their lives and that exercise itself is strongly linked to happiness. So in fact, within 5 minutes after moderate exercise, you're likely to experience a mood enhancement effect. So if we look at this slide here, we can see these three things are interrelated. So for sure, you know, it's not just this single one thing, it's kind of a package deal, right? So we can see that the brain needs energy, it needs nutrients for structure function, but then also we have that exercise component that can help benefit our body, our mental wellness. And then all of that can also help reduce our risk for chronic disease. So ultimately, simply put, when you feed your brain well, you'll feel better physically as well. So next up, let's take a look at, what do we mean by healthy eating, right? Because again, it's very, very broad. It's not just a simple answer. So what is it, right? Most Canadians will eat an abundance of food and calories, but many don't actually get the nutrients that they need for good health. So nutrient-rich foods have high levels of nutrients like protein, vitamins, minerals for the fewest calories. And by choosing nutrient-rich foods, you're going to be ultimately getting more bang for your bite. So for example, if we compare, if you're going to eat an apple versus a couple of Oreo cookies, that apple's going to have fiber, it's going to have some vitamins in it, and it's not going to have too many calories. Whereas if you look at the cookies, there's likely not going to be many vitamins in there. There's not going to be any fiber. They're probably going to be higher in fat and sugars. And ultimately, that's why they're often termed as empty calories. So healthy eating is really a combination of eating the right foods in the right amounts. And what that means is that by selecting of foods from the 3 food groups, all the nutrients that we need will be supplied. And again, if we select nutrient-rich foods most often, again, we're going to help limit that intake of excessive calories and make sure that we get the nutrients we need. So quick question before we continue. Again, you can share your thoughts in the chat. Can anybody name the 6 classes or categories of nutrients? Yeah, we have our first one, protein. Absolutely. That's certainly one of the 6. Carbs, fats, yeah. Veggies, not quite, but veggies do contain a lot of nutrients. Excellent. Fiber, yeah, fiber would actually fall under carbs. Yes, minerals is one as well. Excellent. Vitamins, yes, and we're missing one. Yes, water. Fabulous. All right, so I was wondering if anybody would mention water. Yes, somebody's joking there in the chat. Very funny. Okay, so 6 classes of nutrients. For sure, water. that is the first one on the list because the human body requires so much water, right? Our body is actually made of 60% water, and we tend to take water for granted and forget how important it really is for normal body function. It's often called the forgotten nutrient. Next up, we have carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and they were all mentioned as well. So carbohydrate, protein, and fat are all nutrients that can be used as energy. So the three nutrients are needed in large quantities, and they're also known as macronutrients. So macro meaning a lot, so large quantity of nutrients, right? So fats have more than twice the energy value when compared to carbohydrates and protein. Many of us already know that, right? Very energy dense. So fat offers 9 calories per gram, while carbohydrates and protein each offer 4 calories per gram. So not all fats are bad, right? In fact, we actually need some healthy fats in our diets. And protein is very well known, right? It's often in the spotlight for the reason that it's a structural part of the body, right? So we need it as building blocks to maintain healthy tissues, hormones, and enzymes. It can also be used for energy, but that's not the prime, like the number one function of protein. The energy would really be more so the carbohydrate. And it's also beneficial because it helps make us feel fuller longer because it takes a little longer to digest. Then we have the carbohydrates, which are broken down into glucose, and that's stored as glycogen in the liver, in the muscles. We have a few kind of reserves of energy there. And important to note that the brain and the red blood cells are completely dependent on glucose for fuel. And our muscles also rely on it as a major source of energy. So again, that glucose coming from those carbohydrates, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the slides that Maya will be presenting. So 45 to 65% of our daily caloric intakes or energy intake should come from carbohydrates, 20 to 35% from fats, and about 10 to 35% comes from protein. So protein is actually the one that we need the least amount of, but we're often really preoccupied at, getting enough protein. But typically in the North American diet, it's not something that we're low on. We tend to, eat quite enough protein. And the last two here are vitamins and minerals. And they come from foods. So by selecting a variety of foods, all the nutrients are more likely to be included. And important to note that, some vitamins and minerals, we can't create it in our bodies. So we absolutely need to ingest it and take it in from food in order to get it. So true or false question. Adults need to drink 8 glasses of water every day to stay healthy. Okay, so it's a bit of a trick question. It's a little misleading if I'm being honest here. So true, so yes and no. So not really, okay. False, we need more, okay. False, you can eat water too. I guess if you're eating ice cubes, you can't drink it, right? All right, so false, why? Well, because your fluid intake can include water as well as a variety of other fluids. And as some of you mentioned, it can also vary depending on, different factors, right? Your activity level, your environment, all sorts of things, right? So let's talk a little bit more about fluids because, as I mentioned earlier, water tends to be that, forgotten nutrient. So adults need to do, excuse me, I'm jumping ahead here. So yes, the answer is false, but it's because it can vary. So the daily recommended intakes for females and males, so it's 2.2 liters for females of fluid, so it doesn't absolutely have to be water, is 2.2 liters for females and 3 liters for males, plus whatever extra you need for physical activity to replace what's been lost due to sweat and the environment. And note that fluids include water and other beverages like milk, some juice, soups, coffee, and tea. Coffee and tea are not necessarily dehydrating, although they do have caffeine and can sometimes act as a diuretic, so it might make you have to use the washroom a little bit more. But ultimately, water should be your beverage of choice. And that's because water helps us stay healthy and energized. It helps with temperature regulation, digestion, transporting nutrients, joint health, waste removal, and bowel movements, right? So we need water for so many functions in our body. And our bodies lose water by sweating, breathing, and getting rid of waste. So, that constant output, we need to drink some water. So if we don't drink enough, we can get dehydrated and ultimately not feel great. Somebody did mention in the chat, you can get headaches, not really a fun thing. And also keeping in mind that milk and fortified soy beverages are also healthy ways to satisfy your thirst. So they're good sources of protein, calcium, and vitamin D. There's also enriched rice and almond beverages that contain calcium and vitamin D, but just note that those are low in protein. And there's still better choices than juices, right? So sweetened beverages and carbonated beverages like pop, we want to try to kind of, just on occasion, right? So limit the consumption of those. Same thing with fruit juice. Even if it's labeled as no sugar added, we have to keep in mind there still contains a high amount of sugar. Things like fruit punch, fruit drink, fruit cocktail, and fruit flavored beverages, they do contain water. They also have flavoring and added sugar, so there's no real, nutrition to those. There's no other nutrients. So again, it's best to limit these products and just have them in moderation. Same thing with sports drinks. They're designed for, higher intensity, longer periods of exercise. If, there's lots of sweating going on, the exercise is lasting for over an hour long. So if you're just drinking a sports drink while you're sitting at your desk, you're just going to be increasing your sugar intake. And also important to limit your intake of sodas, energy drinks, sweetened hot beverages, and alcohol. These beverages, it can be high in calories, they're low nutrients, and again, they can lead to weight gain. And there's a quick questions in there. I know I said we keep them for the end. Shouldn't water requirement factor in one's weight? Definitely, there are some more intricate, calculations that you can do based on somebody's weight, but more so of a concern if you're in, desert-like environments, as well as sports exercise. But aside from that, if you make sure that you're drinking throughout the day regularly, it's not something you have to be overly concerned of. And we did touch upon sports drinks. If some of you are interested in sports nutrition and learning more, we do have workshops and webinars for that. So make sure you check our webpage if that's something of interest to you. So what are some techniques that you can use to ensure you're staying hydrated and drinking enough water? Does anybody have any kind of tips and tricks that they'd like to share in the chat? Personally, I always have my bottle right beside me, so I can just take a sip every now and then. I am working from home, but if I don't have my bottle next to me, I just, don't have the reflex to just kind of drink. I'll just kind of suddenly figure out, oh, I'm really thirsty. Oh, when's the last time I drank some water? So that's my go-to trick. How about yours? I'd like to hear. Absolutely, yeah. Drink a glass first thing in the morning when you get up. Yeah, we have fasted all night. When I feel thirsty, I drink some water. Absolutely. Drink 2 glasses of warm water in the morning. Definitely. Excellent tips here. So we have a fizzy machine and I'm addicted to carbonated water. Kate? Setting a reminder on your smartwatch, awesome. Just fill a jug first thing in the morning, make sure it's gone before bed, yeah. Buy a bottle with some stamps on it to keep track, definitely. Some great tips here. Put some honey and cinnamon, yeah. Some 64-ounce water bottles on Amazon with timestamps on it. That's awesome. And somebody did ask about, what about Diet Coke? Again, it kind of falls into that other category. So ultimately, the bottom line here is water should always be your drink of choice. And then anything else is kind of a, a bonus, if you will. All right, so you have all mentioned pretty much the things and notes I had for tips and tricks. So thank you so much for that. So finding your flavor, somebody already mentioned adding a little bit of taste in there. Some easy trick without adding extra sugar would be you can put some fruits. You can also put some herbs in there. Temperature is very personal. It's totally up to you. There's no concerns around, absorption rate or if it's good or bad. Whatever will, get you drinking the water that you need is best. And accessibility, right? So some of you've also mentioned, kind of that cueing, right? Reminders, having things written on the water bottle. So again, thank you so much for your participation. And just to go a little bit deeper into thinking about your drink, so we all know that drinks can add additional calories, right? So sodium, also sugars or saturated fat to your meal. And it's true for non-alcoholic as well as alcoholic drinks. So for example, if we take a look at the calorie content for these three common beverages, so here we have a can of soda, we have some apple juice with no added sugar, and here we have a beer. So here's the calorie content on average for each given product. So regular soft drink, 156. The apple juice, even if there's no added sugar, is still 130 calories. And a bottle of regular beer is 140 calories. So some of you might be kind of eyeing that apple juice and wondering, but why? It comes straight from apples. There's no added sugar. There's still a lot of sugar content in it. And if you're looking at, well, should I eat the apple or should I drink the apple juice? The apple will be approximately 70 calories and it'll have extra nutrients like fiber that you wouldn't get if you're just drinking the juice. And will also provide a little bit more sustenance than just drinking the juice. So again, just things to think about and reflect on. So again, as a healthier alternative, if you really like soda, you could try carbonated water with a little bit of flavor with fruit in it. Somebody mentioned that as well in the chat, loves carbonated water. Plain coffee and tea can also be an option. But again, ultimately water is that preferred choice. It's calorie-free, it'll keep you hydrated. And it's also recommended that if you choose to drink alcohol, make sure that you alternate your alcoholic drinks with non-alcoholic beverages like water, sparkling water, it could be fruit or vegetable juices, or even diet pop, just to kind of slow down the drinks. And if, again, you choose to drink alcohol, try to keep it to no more than 2 standard alcoholic beverages per occasion for women or 3 standard drinks for men, and no more than 15 drinks for men per week or 10 beverages for women per week. So these are the low risk drinking guidelines, and we can definitely share that information with you at the end of the presentation. And the last point about thinking about your drink. So we also have to consider things that we can add to drinks, right? We can sometimes add sugars and fats. And an example of that is, if you're adding stuff to your coffee, right? So for example, this is a 12-ounce, 340 milliliter mocha. So there's a few pumps of, chocolate syrup in there. There's some fabulous whipped cream with this nice little chocolate drizzle on top. So it's only 340 mils and it's going to run you up to 290 calories. So if you're a person that consumes, let's say, 2,000 calories per day, this is already taking almost 300 and you haven't eaten any food yet, right? So again, consume these goodies in moderation. So now we've reviewed the classes of nutrients as well as the daily recommended intake for each. So, mostly carbs, fats, and then proteins. How do we put it together, right? Are we going to start thinking like, okay, I need this nutrient and that nutrient and this nutrient, right? It can seem really, really complicated and overwhelming, but that's why we're here today, is to show you that really, if we follow the Canadian Food Guide, we can build some healthy meals and snacks and, not have to think too much about it. So here is the image of the most recent Canadian Food Guide, and it depicts how to create a healthy plate for each meal and snack that we eat. So the objective is to simplify healthy eating, to make sure that we're getting all the nutrients that we need. And it's recommending that half our plate is vegetables and fruit, 1/4 protein foods. So that's animal or plant-based, and dairy products have been absorbed into this category. And then we also have the other quarter of your plate, which hopefully should be whole grains most of the time, and water as our drink of choice. And so, it's great. We see this plate, we can build a meal. It can sometimes be hard to visualize, like, okay, well, how can I apply this to snacks? But again, on the Canadian Food Guide website, they've created these fabulous videos, and I've just pulled a couple images that, I really enjoyed, just seeing it laid out. So creating your snacks using that plate model. So 2 examples. First one here, we have half your plate is your veggies. So then we have 1/4 is your, my goodness, chickpeas. So it'll be like your hummus, right? And then we have your crackers. So put that all in a cute little snap box, and there you go. You have a very well-balanced snack. And then there's another example here, some apple slices with some cheese and a whole grain English muffin. And this is all while being mindful of our serving sizes. And so we're just going to take a quick look at serving size. So size down your plate. So which plate gives you the impression of a larger serving size, or which plate looks like it has more food on it? So please share your thoughts in the chat. You can just type A or B. So we have a few questions about serving size and quantities. Yes, those are depicted. We're not diving into it today, just for the fact that to respect timing. All right, everyone's saying B, fabulous. Yes, you are correct. I hope my animation works here. There we go. Yes, both food images are exactly the same size, but yeah, definitely the right image gives you the impression of more food in the plate because of the smaller plate background, right? So I'll just go put the plates back. Boom. There we go. So the size of your plate, your bowl, and your cup can make a big difference on how much you eat, right? If you take like this huge mug and then you put your regular serving of coffee in it, you might look half empty. But if you use a smaller one, you have a nice full cup of coffee or cereal or whatever it is that you're having. So it can really make a huge impact using smaller, utensils, plates, bowls, or not utensils, excuse me. That won't necessarily be helpful. Well, I mean, unless you're using like the giant soup spoon or ladle to eat, but again, it's something that can have a really huge impact on the choices that we make from a day-to-day. So next up, we're going to jump into kind of a bit more detail of talking about the Canadian Food Guide and plates. And I did see a question kind of fly by about the keto diet. We do have a handout available explaining more on that, which again, I'll share with the organizers at the end of the presentation. So Maya, the floor is all yours.
All right, thank you so much. So I will try to keep my video on. I know that we need to see my mouth moving, but if my internet is going to be as bad as it has been over the last few days, we might have to make some different decisions there. But thank you, Tina. So let's keep going. So Tina talked about serving sizes, about what the plate should look like, about putting a meal together and sort of thinking about your meal having half of it being a vegetable or a fruit, because that's bulk with lots more nutrients, a lot less calories. But how do we choose fruits and vegetables? So basically, when we're looking at fruits and vegetables, we want to make sure that we're choosing a whole fruit versus the juice. So when you think about juicing, how many fruits and vegetables do you put into to get 1 cup? Well, typically you can use 3 or 4 fruit in 1 cup of juice. So imagine that's like, Tina said an apple is 70 calories. So that's 70 calories times 4. And you don't have the fiber in it. You don't have the chewing component that tells your brain that you're eating. So there's a lot of sort of mixed signals in there. So choose whole versus fruit. Now choose a variety of different colors, because every different color of vegetable or fruit has a different nutrient or a different vitamin that it can give you. We're all creatures of habit, so guaranteed, I'm going to say 99% of you go to the grocery store and buy the exact same fruits and vegetables every single time you go. So you're getting the exact same nutrients every single time you eat them, which, as long as you're eating some, which is great, but try different things, try seasonal things, try to get things fresh, frozen, or canned are also excellent. So if you're not getting blueberries or raspberries in the middle of winter, buying them flash frozen is almost better sometimes than getting them fresh, because we don't know how long they've traveled from Brazil or Chile. So important also to have fruits and vegetables in your meals and your snacks. So when we talk about the Canada's Food Guide, there's a certain amount of serving sizes that we should be getting throughout the day. Excuse me. Sometimes it's hard to get them all in 1 meal or 3 meals. So maybe having an apple as a snack, or having, like Tina showed us, vegetables and hummus as a snack can add to our fruit and vegetable consumption. So when we talk about healthier cooking methods, or even healthier eating methods, we want to talk about, how can we ingest these fruits and vegetables without added fat, sugar, and salt. So maybe not having a cheese sauce on our broccoli, or maybe not having, our sweet potatoes or regular potatoes deep fried with poutine on it. Or, also when it comes to salads, our salad dressing can actually add up to even being more than just getting a hamburger. So thinking about what we add to our fruits and vegetables to make them better for us. So when we're looking at whole grain foods, when you're looking at a label and you're reading the ingredients, you want to make sure that you have the whole grain, and sometimes you can even see the whole grain including the germ, because the grain comes in 3 different parts. And oftentimes processed foods or bleached foods will remove the healthy part, the noyau, the healthy part of the grain, because that's what's alive, and that's what makes it last longer on the shelves when it's not there. So when we talk about getting nutrients, you get lots of fiber, like we talked about, but also your vitamin E and vitamin B nutrients. That's really, really important for our bodies. And when we have more fiber, it takes longer for our body to digest and break down these foods, so we can actually stay full longer. It minimizes obesity rates because of the process slowing down of the breakdown of foods. So we're not hungry right away like we are when we eat something like a white bread or a chocolate bar. But also it lowers our risk of illnesses like our chronic diseases, stroke, colon cancers, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. So the more whole foods, the closer to the ground that we eat, the better off we're going to be with fiber and nutrients. So enjoy variety regularly, right? Sometimes we don't like the taste of one of the whole grains, so maybe we try a different one. And then also too, again, prepare with less sugar, fat, and salt. So always think about, am I having an Alfredo sauce with extra Parmesan cheese on it, which when we talk about cream, we know that increases the fat content exponentially, or am I having a nice marinara sauce with fresh basil and a sprinkle of Parmesan sauce, right? So thinking about how we prepare our foods is also a really, really big deal. So not talking about protein, just like Tina was saying, we think we need a lot more than we actually do. Our bodies only require about a quarter of our sort of food intake to be protein, because protein only has a certain amount of protein jobs. And so if we have excess protein, just like with everything else, it can get eliminated. We're not necessarily using it, or it can get stored as fat. So choosing plant-based sources more often just basically means that we're going to be reducing our intake of maybe saturated fats, but also increase our intake of fiber. And we want to eat them throughout the day, because also when we combine a protein with a carbohydrate, for example, it slows down the process of digestion and we stay full longer. So we want to make sure that we're spreading it out throughout the day. Again, healthier cooking methods, right? So when we're talking about cooking, let's say chicken, for example, you want maybe grilled or broiled, as opposed to deep fried, crispy, and basically, right? So when we're looking at portion sizes, thinking about a quarter of your plate. So we're thinking about nuts and seeds and fish and plant-based proteins like edamame, so soybeans, but also, our dairy products is now in that category. So we want to make sure that we're limiting processed foods. So Tina was saying that processed foods or sweets and treats are typically considered empty calories. Lots of calories, but empty meaning we're not getting any nutrients out of them. So we want to make sure that we're not eating this as our base or as our main source of caloric intake, because when we're eating processed foods, our body is still going to be hungry because it's craving the nutrients it needs to build itself, to repair itself, okay? So there is room for treats, right? We want to make sure that moderation is key. So having 1 or 2 treats a day is absolutely fine. But a treat is 100 to 150 calories, okay? It's not, a donut could be up to 400 or 500 calories. So maybe share that with your best friend. So nothing wrong with having some throughout the day, but making sure they're not your main sources of calories. Okay, so how do we minimize it, or when we're making choices, when we're ordering food, what are some things that you think you can do when you're ordering food or when you're choosing foods to make them healthier choices? What kinds of things do you think you can do in that particular, if you're going to a restaurant, for example, how can you make different choices to make them healthier? A banana is around 100 calories, yes, but that's in your fruit content. So it's not considered a treat, a banana. It's an excellent source of potassium. Order a meal salad. Okay, now again, with a meal salad, we talked about the dressing. So sometimes if you're like, oh, I'm going to have a salad, and then you choose a Caesar salad with bacon bits, Parmesan cheese, deep fried croutons, and cream dressing, you might as well get a hamburger. So just again, being aware of, as much as a salad is healthy and getting vegetables is healthy, maybe have the dressing on the side with no bacon bits, for example, okay? Substitute salad for fries, right? Skipping the cheese or light on the cheese. Ask for sauces on the side. Excellent. Okay, you guys have got this down. So we also talked about, instead of choosing pop or an alcoholic beverage, get some water instead. Right? Asking for smaller portions. Sometimes you can ask for a child size. Ask for a to-go box and put half of your meal in it before you even start eating. A lot of us feel like we need to finish our plates and put all of that food in our bodies because we don't want to waste any. Well, you're not wasting any if you bring it home and you have it for lunch the next day, right? No need to limit the amount of carbs that you're eating. It's really about minimizing the amount of fat that you're eating. So choosing water instead of instead of any type of sugary drinks. Did you know that sometimes alcoholic beverages like fun drinks like a pina colada can go up to 600 calories? So when we're looking at ordering, maybe when we're buying something like pizza, maybe having a thin crust or a whole grain crust, making things, choosing things that have more vegetables on them. So like we saw in the chat, choosing a salad maybe versus French fries, choosing extra vegetables on our pizza versus just, ground beef and pepperoni. So making choices when it comes to having more vegetables is always a good thing. We also talked about having our dressings on the side so that we can choose how much we want to put, but also choosing things that when we're looking at share a meal. Yes, right? Get something that you can share with someone. And we often do that is let's, choose half and half each, and then we can have a fruit or a salad on the side. So getting things maybe that are smaller portions, but also to thinking about where you're going to eat, right? Ethnic foods sometimes are generally, yes, right? Lots of vegetables usually. So just always thinking about how often am I eating out? What kinds of foods am I choosing? Can I choose more vegetables? Can I put the sauce on the side? Those kinds of things, right? And then again, you can have a to-go box or maybe eat half and put the rest away for the next day because we want to enjoy it for longer periods of time. We get to enjoy it twice if we put some away. So how to limit processed foods, eat them less often, eat them in small amounts. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having treats and I eat treats every day, but I keep it to a minimum, right? Replace them with healthier options. So sometimes if we have a lot of treats, maybe we should have fruits instead. Replace sugary drinks with water, okay? And putting a lime or a lemon in a water bottle makes it a really, really nice flavor. Sometimes you can put mint leaves in it. So try not to keep highly processed foods at home. So if you feel like, oh, I can't control myself, I'm going to have the whole bag instead of just putting some in a bowl, maybe don't buy them or only buy them once in a while. And choose healthier menu options when eating out. So healthy habits, healthy eating is more than just the food you eat, right? Healthy habits, when it comes to healthy eating, it's not about having a salad occasionally. It's about the things that you do consistently. And consistency is the key when it comes to anything. When we're looking at managing our mood, managing our weight, exercising, it's always about the things that we do and how often we do them. But when we're talking about healthy eating habits, we also have to consider a few other things. For example, where do we eat? Do we eat out in restaurants all the time? Do we eat at home? Do we eat at our desk? Okay, where do we eat? Do we eat with other people? Do we eat alone? So when we think about things that eating habits are, they're more holistic. So where do we eat? Then we talk about when. Do I eat when I'm hungry? Do I eat when I'm bored? Do I eat when I'm stressed? Do I eat, really late at night? Because I know that eating late at night definitely affects my sleep. So when do I eat? Do I eat at meal times? Do I only eat at night because I don't want to eat breakfast in the morning? These are all really, really important factors. Okay, why am I eating? Am I eating, again, because I'm hungry? Am I eating because it's lunchtime? Am I eating because there's food out and it's a party and I want to taste all of these delicious things? Am I eating, again, because I'm stressed or sad? Okay, and how am I eating? Am I eating slowly? Am I eating quickly? Am I eating holistically? Do I have all kinds of different colors on my plate? Am I eating a certain way and I've cut out a food group, for example? So our healthy habits add up. So defensive cooking and eating, this is where we talk about how should we manage or how is it the best way to eat when you're looking at across the board. Plan your meals and snacks. So look at what you have in the fridge. Maybe think about opening up a flyer, and some people will base their meals on things that are on sale, for example. Or maybe we have a meatless Monday and we plan our Monday to not have any meat. So we're going to look up maybe a meatless chili, for example. We want to eat meals throughout the day. Remember when Tina talked about our brain uses glucose to function. So we need to make sure that we're spreading out our food throughout the day so we're constantly feeding our brain so that it's able to think and function. Now we want to eat small snacks between meals. These are not extra meals. These are ways to get in those healthy foods that we might not be able to fit in during our meals. And it also keeps our blood sugar level up. Has anybody ever felt hangry before, where you're just starving and you don't know what to do? You panic, you get angry, and you're very, very grumpy. Well, that's because your brain's lacking carbohydrates. That's because you need something to eat, right? You need to get your blood sugar levels back up. Eat breakfast every day because you are going to kickstart your metabolism at that time. So that's when your body starts going, okay, I need to wake up. My metabolism is going to be up. I'm going to start functioning. And avoid skipping meals, because then you'll just be a lot hungrier later, and eating later isn't necessarily better for your body. Okay, so we want to make sure that how can we make this easier? Wash and cut vegetables and keep them in the fridge. Some people just buy the trays of cut up vegetables right away because if it's easy, you're going to do it. Keep fruits in a bowl that are available to grab. So if you're seeing them, you might be more apt to choosing them. And pair carbohydrate snacks with a protein or healthy fat. Again, to slow down the digestive process so your body is absorbing all of your nutrients slowly. When we talk also about mindfully eating, listen to your body's hunger signals. What does it feel like to be hungry? When do I know that I'm hungry? Am I eating because I'm hungry? Am I actually hungry, or am I just thirsty? Because thirsty and hungry feels the same. Am I chewing every bite, right? Sometimes I call my husband a Hoover because I'm like, did you even chew any of that stuff? Because it's gone in less than 2.5 minutes. And, you know, it takes about 45 minutes to prepare. So I'm like, enjoy every bite. See if you can taste the different things that are in it. Eat slowly and thoughtfully and try to pay attention when you're eating. So what are some different tips and tricks on how to slow down your eating? Put your fork down between every bite, or have a sip of water between every bite. Chew your food. So to help the digestion process and to make sure that you are absorbing all of those nutrients, they're saying that you have to almost not pulverize, but you have to almost blend your food inside. Your digestive process starts with your chewing. The more you chew, the more the brain signals, oh, I'm eating. And it takes about 20 minutes for the signal to get to your brain to say, I'm eating, I feel satisfied, I don't need to eat anymore. Okay, so the slower you eat, the fuller you're going to get, the less calories you're going to consume. Okay, so notice when you feel satisfied. You don't need to feel full, because when you feel full, you feel uncomfortable, then you've eaten too much, and then you're going to feel yucky afterwards. Notice when you feel like you're not hungry anymore, not when you're full. That's already too much. Okay, notice when you feel satisfied and then stop there. If you're hungry after 20 minutes, you can eat a little bit more, or you can eat at the next meal or have a snack. Now, we talked about stress and nutrition, but I only have 4 minutes left to finish the presentation. So we know that stress is a huge factor in a lot of different things. When it comes to stress and nutrition, we know that stress increases cortisol levels, and cortisol levels increases visceral fat, which is fat that's held in front of your body. Sleep will be affected by stress. Sometimes we eat stressfully, so we eat emotionally. So we eat when we're sad, we eat when we're stressed, we eat when we're tired, but we're not necessarily hungry, and we might be eating empty calories at this time. And we might change our eating pattern. So some people who are stressed will actually forget to eat and stop eating. Or some people will eat a lot more because our bodies are stressed, they're tired, we're looking for more energy, so our bodies are automatically going to eat more. Okay, a lot of the times when we're stressed, we're too busy to exercise, and we know that exercise will counterbalance our calorie intake. And we might be too busy to cook healthy meals. So we're going to do the drive-through thing. We're going to call, I don't know, Uber Eats or whatever it is, skip the dishes, and we're like, you know what, we're just going to order this meal because I feel like it and I don't want to cook. And we know that there's extra sugar, salt, and fat in those things. And of course, cortisol levels are going to go up. So our bodies are going to be holding on to a lot more fat when we're stressed if we're not taking care of ourselves. So you can manage your stress, and these are some different ways that you can do it. So Tina's already mentioned feeding your brain and your body well. So looking after your physical health supports your mental well-being. So your brain needs a lot of energy and nutrients from food for structure and function. So we're not only feeding our bodies, we're definitely feeding our souls, right? Eating is a fun thing, but it's also really important for every single action that happens in our bodies when it comes to digestion and fixing our skin when we get a cut. It helps with our seeing, it helps with our thinking. So a lot of repair is happening. So healthy foods and regular exercise can reduce symptoms of depression, right? We talked about that already. And healthy food choices can decrease the risk of developing chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, colon cancers, etc. So how do we do that? By enjoying regular physical activity. We know that when we're physically active, we have a smaller stress response. It's an excellent coping mechanism. It's great for your self-esteem and self-reported happiness. And also people who exercise regularly report lower perceived stress. So some tips to get healthier: exercise. If it's not something you do now, you don't need to start by doing an hour a day. Maybe just do 10 minutes once or twice a day. If you feel great, great. Then do maybe 2 or 3 bouts of 10. Making it part of your daily routine. This is not something that you want to make sure that you skip on. It doesn't have to be, again, going to a gym or doing a HIIT class. Just going out for a walk, parking far, doing things like going up and down the stairs. Vacuuming is really great for physical activity, right? We're home a lot more. And then make it enjoyable. Do something you enjoy. If you like to dance, if you like music, if you like, different things, make it fun. Don't make it like, oh, I don't want to do this. Okay, making sure you're getting adequate sleep. It's important for memory. It's important for resiliency and stress management. And it affects our physical and mental health. Sleep is also a nutrient that we tend to neglect. So avoid screens an hour before bed. Have a healthy bed routine. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, heavy meals, and nicotine close to bedtime, and be active during the day. It will help you with sleeping better at night. So making changes. If you found something that you thought, I could do that one thing. These are some ideas of, if I could do one thing, it could make a huge difference in my daily routine, in my health. So pick one small change. Don't change 8 things. Change one thing at a time. Make that stick, and then try something else. So maybe something like adding a home-cooked meal to your weekly rotation, making a plan. Replace one daily sweet beverage with water. So if you drink those, 300-calorie mocha coffees, maybe make it a black one with a little bit of, maple syrup. or if you drink energy drinks or even any type of pop, just replace it with water. Replace a sweet treat with fruit. Eat whole foods. And when you like them, find something that you like when it comes to a bread, a pasta, a rice medley, right? Making them accessible, and try to move more and sit less. This is a really important thing. If you have a step tracker, try to hit 5, 7,000, 10,000, 12,000. If you need an exercise buddy, get a dog because they're excellent walking partners. And remember to make sleep a priority. Okay. Practice self-compassion. This is not a bandwagon. This is something that you're doing because you love your body and because you care about yourself. And if you have sweets, or you go out and you drink a little bit more, or you eat a little bit more junk, that's okay. Tomorrow can be better. It's about being good to yourself. So small changes, these are some of the things you can choose. So maybe choose an unprocessed food, right? If you eat something that's processed, maybe switch it with a non-processed. Replace juice with fresh fruits or vegetables. Eat whole grain at least half the time. So we don't all love whole wheat or whole grain stuff. Maybe we like white pasta, but maybe we'll try whole grain bread just to try something hearty. So try to find a balance. Include probiotic rich foods, right? We know the things that are fermented, or kimchis, those kinds of things. Reduce sugar intake. We know that sugar is definitely causes a lot of issues. Include fish every week. And if you don't like fish, maybe just supplement with an omega-3. Choose plant-based proteins food more often, maybe less red meat. Eat at least 3 different colors of fruits and vegetables every day, and try to, vary those colors. Don't always use the same colors. So these are some small changes you can make. I hope Tina and I gave you something to think about, and maybe an idea of what you can do to make your mental and your physical health a little bit better. If you'd like to follow us on social media, or if you'd like to see our pre-taped presentations already, we have some on our Health Promotion Ottawa YouTube page. But otherwise, on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, we have lots of really interesting posts that can maybe help you make some great decisions as well. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Wow.